Oh shit, nope, he's gone. It's definitely dying. Yeah, I killed it.
You got it?
Yeah, but I did have to spray our bed with poisonous chemicals.
So about once every Q&A we get the question, this is really fun, but have you thought about getting a distributor? So I'd just like to take a moment to explain how this normally works. So if you get a normal distribution deal, the filmmaker turns the film over to the distribution company, and they then turn around and turn it over to an aggregator who then gets it up on digital platforms. And then if you've got a theatrical release, turns around and negotiates with theater owners about the theatrical run. So in a traditional distribution deal, you are losing between 50 and 90% of your revenue, of all revenue that comes in to middlemen before any money trickles back to you. And frequently, that means that no money trickles back, or a stupidly small amount of money trickles back. And of that 90% of your revenue that you're losing, the distributor themselves is taking generally between 30 to 80%. So what we have done is take away the distributor as the middleman in all of these processes. So we went directly to an aggregator to get the film on the digital platforms. And then we, namely Sarah Wharton, started calling theaters directly. And one of the things we were warned most about was, well, you're gonna need to use a theatrical booker if you don't have a distributor, because there's no way that you'll be able to just call theaters and get your movie in them. And that has proven to be so far from the truth that I think it's important to share this information. So many of them said yes, that we had originally intended to book about a 30 screening tour. That seemed like a reasonable number of screenings in 90 days. And we ended up booking 51, at which point we had to start saying no to places. So we have actively had to turn down screenings just because we wouldn't survive more than 51 screenings in 90 days. And obviously we're not talking about Regal or AMC or any of these big chains which are so corporate and so, I don't know, they're just corporate and enormous and you can't actually talk to a person. But as it turns out, there are so many little theaters all over this country run by people who love movies. They just care as much as we filmmakers do about getting good film to their people. And if you actually talk to them and you have a compelling case for why you will be bringing an experience to their community that they would not otherwise have, there's a very, very good chance that they're going to say yes.
People put their heart, their soul, their energy, their time, their money into these movies, and unfortunately they don't get seen by a lot of people, and my job as a program director with the Charlotte Film Society is to make sure people see these films in whatever way I can.
In this instance, the trailer sold us instantly.
They emailed me and asked if we would be interested in playing it, and I asked the boss, who usually doesn't do this sort of stuff, but I showed him the preview and he said, yeah, let's do it. So we did it.
We feel like we're exposing people to indie films, to documentaries, to art house films that they wouldn't even see at the normal movie theater, and yet we have them in this small little town. And I think that's really important because we can really touch so many people with a theater. A lot of people will never go to an art gallery in their lives, but everybody will go to the movies, especially if you can entice them with something fun like the Vampire Tour.
So when people say, oh, like, isn't your goal ultimately to get a traditional distribution deal with this film? Not really, because with my first film, I got a theatrical distribution deal, and Sarah Wharton has gotten theatrical distribution deals through traditional distributors with her earlier films. Like, we've done that. Here's the crazy thing. We made more money in ticket sales alone in the first week of this tour than I made with my first film total through a distributor. So we keep talking about the fact that we're trying something new, and I want to be super clear about this because self-distribution is definitely not anything new. I mean, from the beginning of film, people were putting their reel-to-reels in the back of a car and driving around the country to theaters. That is an old format. And also, the most marginalized voices in film have always had to find ways around, have always self-distributed. When I say that we're trying something new, what I'm talking about is something really specific. So what we're threading the needle on is event-based screenings. So screenings plus an event, combined with a tour of this scope and duration, combined with a revenue model that uses that tour to drive online sales. So frequently people have tried this, but they do the tour and then people can't buy the film online until later. They window it in that way, which I think doesn't work for the world we live in of instant gratification, and also because I think with marketing budgets this small, you will never reach those people again. So when people leave the theater and they want to say to their friends, like, I just saw the greatest movie, you have to see it, those people are not going to remember in 6 months or 3 months or 2 months, but if they can go online and buy it immediately, it might work. So that is the needle that we're threading, that as far as we know, nobody's tried in exactly the way that we're doing it. And that's what's new. When I travel the country speaking to audiences about the lack of women in film and the other things I speak about, consistently after my talks, audience members come up to me and say, why don't they make good movies anymore? And I'm like, we are making good movies, but you can't find them. And we don't know how to get them to you. So that's the loop we're trying to close here, is like, if we're making good movies and they want them, where in the channel is it getting lost? I think it's happening with the distributors.
Wow! Come on, move along. I said, baby, I know you're on a roll. Sweet honey, let's take it real slow. You know we got what you need, baby, so take it, move along.
I feel so tired that I might throw up.
Said we got what you need, honey, come and groove along. Come on. Rolling on the highway, ease up. Wow! Come on.
fancier than the last pair you had.
Yeah, well, I'm getting a little fancy.
As you are. Those are them?
Yes.
Okay.
We're getting ice cream.
We're getting ice cream at the berry patch.
The berry patch.
Are you immortal?
No, I'm not immortal. No.
I have to ask.
It'd be really cool if I said yes, but no, I'm not immortal. Immortality, I believe, is something that is gained through the actions that you create in this life and the way that it impacts the world after that. I've never known a vampire that is immortal. I've never known a real vampire that is actually claimed to be immortal.
I was just gonna say, I know some vampires by name who must be immortal because there's no end to those pricks.
But no, I'm not immortal. I don't claim to be immortal. I think vampirism is just another extension of humanity in the way that we personally receive and give of ourselves into our own human experience.
But the art that we make can be immortal, and so if an anthropologist is watching this video thousands of years from now, then we have achieved immortality.
That's it. We're immortal. This is forever.
That's how you do it.
The internet is forever.
That's unfortunate but true.